So, part three. In this, we are going to talk about a little more about the spheres and the progression through them in Mage. That's how magic works, after all. So, in order to do that, I do need to show you something. So, here we have a diagram. You can see a progression, and I'm going to go through it in detail, but we're going to start at the 9 o'clock position with Prime. So, what we do here is this is the progression of all things. It all starts with Prime, which creates a conception in the mind. The mind then gives focus to create spirit. Spirit is then given form by forces, matter, and or life. These are the physical representations, which is perceived by both correspondence and time, space and time, which gives way to the decay of entropy and fate, returning it all back to Prime. It's a cycle. And as you can see, this is a progression through all the spheres in how all of reality works. To borrow from Werewolf, it is from wild to weaver to worm to back to wild again. It's, even though we think of it as a triad, it's a cycle. And that is the whole idea of Mage. Now the problem is again, just like in Werewolf, the technocracy has taken hold, which is stasis, which is the weaver. Ties into Werewolf that way. It is a calcification of potentiality to make reality stable. This is what the traditions are fighting against. Not that stability is a bad thing, but when all you focus on is stability and not making room for new creation, by letting entropy, by letting the worm do its job, clear out the old to make way for the new, you cause problems. And that's an overwhelming thing that continually happens between Mage and Werewolf. That's one of the connections they can work together on. The problem is what mages call Prime and Quintessence, werewolves call Gnosis. So you have these spheres that are the progression of all reality, from conception to realization to materialization to erosion, and then back to the beginning again. That is the whole idea of it. And each of these spheres, as I described, has a part to play in that. And the problem is a lot of people get it into their heads that there's a way to power game this. The number one that most people jump on is Prime. They want at least 2 dots in Prime so they can lace pure Quintessence in with their spells to make it aggravated damage because they're worried about it being a combat game. My suggestion for dealing with that is make your World of Darkness game suddenly not about combat near as much. And realize every dot in a sphere requires a teacher. You cannot teach yourself. You really have to have someone teach you. You can. It's a more laborious process. But ideally, everything you should have to seek out a teacher to get the next one, which includes going through a rather interesting process to get the teacher to accept you and to agree to teach you. You may have to serve in some capacity in order to earn that right with that teacher. And these are all things that as a storyteller you should be taking into account when you're plotting this out. Just like the vision quests require serious personal investment, it should be the same for finding a teacher. They're going to ask for loyalty. They're going to ask what your personal paradigms and philosophies are. They're going to ask your views on a number of things, and they should. They're about to teach you a new level of influence within the world. And most of them are going to feel very responsible for what they're unleashing in the world in you. They're going to put you through tests. They're going to check your background, everything like that, to make sure you're somebody they want to teach. This is all part and parcel of the game. This is part of what gives it the flavor, gives it the air it does. Seeking out a teacher to get that third level, that third dot in forces, that can be a little bit of an undertaking. And in doing so, you can create new social ties or enemies. There's a lot of potential in this for micro storylines. And those should be exploited. Those potentialities should be exploited. They should be taken advantage of in this game. That is, in general, the whole idea of storytelling in the storytelling system.